Hi, my name is Jonathan Quattel, and welcome to QWaves, a place where we slow down and connect with people on a real personal level. If you have not checked out my first episode with Mr. 302, Brian Shu, please go back, take a listen. It was just a great conversation, getting to know Brian in a more personal way. It was really rich conversation, chill. So I encourage you just to go back and check it out. Comment, like, and share. In today's episode, I have someone who is born and raised in Sussex County. He represents Senate District 19 in Delaware, so he's a state senator. He is a father. He is a businessman. He is someone who loves and knows his community. So here it is, without further ado, Mr. Brian Perrtyjohn. Senator Brian Perrtyjohn, thank you so much for coming in.
That's great to be here.
Great to have you today. And as we're doing this new series in Q Waves, it's just getting to know people beyond their position, and just great to have you here.
No, it's really good to be here. I appreciate the invitation.
Yeah. So we want to get to know you today a little bit more than choose a senator, and this idea how you got there,
Right,
and the journey. And I always have a question: why did you? Step up. I don't know. You guys do so much. I just don't get it. And the challenges you have, specifically being the leadership and all of that. But yeah, just to start with that, are you originally from Delaware?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm originally from Delaware. Born in Milford Hospital, the old Milford Memorial Hospital in town, and grew up outside of Georgetown, just southeast of Georgetown. People in that area might know the name Cabbage Corner. That's kind of where my family grew. My family grew up. My dad was. Got a family farm there. It's about 380 acres over that way. That I kind of manage now. My father and my uncle have both passed, but grew up there. It was one of those things. When I was in high school and graduated from Sussex Central, couldn't wait to get out of here.
Really?
I just thought there was so much more to do. So I went up to college at University of Delaware, and after a while, I couldn't wait to get back. The home was calling again. So moved back down. I got involved in professional life up there. I did IT as a profession. And then moved back down in 2020 or in 2000, and have been here ever since in the Georgetown zip code.
Now, thanks for sharing that. It's good that you're true Delawarean.
Yeah,
True Delawarean, Milford, Sussex County. How do you call the people of Sussex County? How do you call the people of Sussex County?
How do I call the people in Sussex County?
Yeah, no, like. You're Delawarean because you're from Delaware. If you're from Sussex County, what will you be called?
You're a Sussex Countyan.
Sussex County?
Yeah, you're Sussex County. Yeah.
I'm learning all that. I haven't been in Delaware.
You can tell by the accent. It sounds a little like Gumboro. No.
I always say I'm a true Southern boy. Yeah. I have a true Southern accent. You can't go, you can't go in the
south.
Yeah, they go south in Argentina, but no. I appreciate that.
But no, it's my family's been in the area since the 1600s.
Wow.
In fact, if you go to Georgetown on the circle in front of the Court of Chancery, there's a Delaware historic sign that says Perrtyjohn's Old Field.
Wow,
so
I did not know that.
The state bought the land where Georgetown is now from my family back in the late 1700s.
Look at that.
Yeah.
And where did your family originally come from?
Well, it's kind of a story. Family started off in England, moved to France during the reign where Protestants were being murdered in England.
Wow.
So they fled to France, went back to England, then back to France again, and then from France landed in the Tidewater area of Virginia in the 1600s, and then migrated up.
Wow.
Yeah.
So your family has been here literally forever.
Since dirt was new. Yeah, since dirt was new.
Now, let's talk about what you do. You're a senator today. You represent District 19. As I always say, we describe you as a shepherd in government. That's what God said. You're a shepherd,
Mhm.
God's minister for the good of the people.
Right.
That's what the Bible says. And you represent, what is it, just over between 47,000 people? Is that
Over
somewhere
50,
there?
over 50.
Over 50 is?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And that's a lot of people to
That's a lot of
represent.
people. Yeah.
A lot of people to
It's
represent.
probably closer to 60 now.
Wow.
But at the end of the last census, I think it was
Yeah.
55 and change.
Wow.
But I'm sure it's over 60,000 now.
And let's talk about how you got there. Okay. So now we know you were mayor of
Yeah.
Georgetown.
Mhm.
And let's start. Would love to talk about the beginning of your civics
Right.
involvement.
When my daughter was born in 2004, we had lived outside of Georgetown in a community called Deerwood. It's over by Harbison, between Gravel Hill and Harbison. When we had our daughter, we were looking for a bigger house and decided to move into Georgetown. Really, it was a home that was already built. Somebody was selling it, and one of the reasons why we picked it is because all the furniture that we had matched the paint and the carpet that was in the new house. So we're like, oh, we don't have to put any money in the paint or carpet or anything like that. We just literally put our stuff in there and everything matched. So we moved there in 2000 and the end of 2005, just before Thanksgiving. And kind of started getting a little bit more involved. I knew a lot of people there anyway. I mean, growing up in Georgetown. In fact, 3 of my classmates actually lived in the same development.
Wow.
Yeah, graduated in '92. So, started hanging around people and getting a little bit more involved in what was going on. Ended up on the homeowners association board, which I have my opinions on homeowners associations, but we're in an HOA community, and it's one of those things where if you got a problem with something, you get involved with it.
Yeah.
You try to make that positive change. So I guess it was 2008, I guess it was 2007. I was talking to my uncle at Thanksgiving. We have a Thanksgiving dinner at our house that year. And, I was talking to him about, Georgetown needs some stuff. We need some more retail. We need, this, that, and the other. And he looked at me, square in the eye, and just took his finger and poked me right in the chest. He said, Brian, you're old enough now. Either do something about it or quit complaining about it.
Wow.
And that was kind of a slap across the face. I was just venting to my uncle, who's an attorney, and he'd been involved in politics.
Yeah.
But that was that seed that said, okay, maybe it is time for me to do something. So, he and I talked, and, he said, I've been doing a little bit of research, and here's your 3 options. He said, you live in town, so you can run for town council. You could run for county council, or you could run for school board. And we talked about the pros and cons of each of those. And I decided to run for town council. So there was Chet Johnson was the incumbent there, not of the Johnson family. That's from Georgetown, not the Leighton Johnson, but he was the 4th Ward town council person. So I decided to run for that seat, and did what I had helped with campaigns before, so I kind of knew what to do. Just the door knocking, the push cards, the signs, and I had all that stuff done. And I ended up winning that seat in the 2008 election. Fast forward to 2009, and we had a tragedy in Georgetown where Officer Chad Spicer, was killed, and that really affected me in the way that I looked at the responsibility that I had as an elected official.
Wow.
Because he was one of my people. He was one of, I'm the board of directors of the town. I'm on the board of directors of the town, and one of our employees was killed. And that really changed my perspective as to, this is something fun to do, to get involved in civics, to, wow, there are real consequences to decisions that we make here, up there on the dais there in the town council meetings. So I decided to run for mayor after the mayor then decided he wasn't going to run for re-election. So I ran for mayor. I did have a challenger, and the challenger, interestingly enough, was a radio DJ.
Really?
There at the radio station in Georgetown. And you might know the name, Matt Walsh.
Oh.
The Matt Walsh.
Really?
That is now the, Daily Wire guy. I
Are
mean,
you serious?
yes, he was a radio DJ in Georgetown.
I had no idea.
And he ran against me for mayor, and I beat him 430 to 25.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I had certain things that I wanted to get done in town. And I told people, look, I'm not going to be like Leighton Johnson that's in there for 20 or 30. I didn't want to do that. I said, I want to accomplish what we, move Georgetown in a good direction forward, kind of close the book on the tragedy that happened in 2009 with Chad, and then start moving things forward. I thought I'd be able to do a lot of those things in a couple of terms.
Yeah.
Got it done pretty quick. So I said, okay, my promise was I was going to get these things done and I would be done. And I was done. So, and that was May of 2012 is when I finished my 2-year term as mayor. I was like, okay, everything's good. I did my service to the community, and let me just, get back to work again in the private sector. Then came the 2012 general election season. So the person that was the state senator then was Joe Booth. Joe was another former mayor of Georgetown, former school board member. He was a state representative first. When Thurman Adams passed away, he won election into the state Senate seat.
Yeah.
So in September of 2012, Joe gets beaten in a primary by a gentleman, Eric Bodenweiser. During that primary campaign, there was a lot of talk about some things that might have happened in the past. Well, turns out that Mr. Bodenweiser ends up getting indicted on a lot of charges, pretty serious charges. I had heard that there was possibly an indictment coming, so on the last day possible, I filed as a write-in candidate for the 19th Senate District. He ended up withdrawing from the race. The Republican Party tried to put me on the ballot, because there was a withdrawal. Department of Elections fought it.
Yeah.
They're saying, the law says there's, death or disability are the only two ways that they can replace somebody on the ballot after that deadline date. And the argument ended up having to go to the Court of Chancery and then to the Delaware Supreme Court.
Really? Wow.
In a very expedited fashion, because we're talking, we're now talking October, the end of September into October for a November election.
Yeah.
So the argument was, well, because of the conditions that were put on Mr. Bodenweiser, that he was disabled. He couldn't actively campaign. And if he was elected, he couldn't actively serve because of the conditions that were placed upon him. So those arguments were made to the chancellor at that time, which was Leo Strine, and Chancellor Strine ended up ruling in my favor and in the Republican Party favor, saying Brian needs to go on the ballot.
Yeah.
Well, then the Department of Elections appealed that to the Delaware Supreme Court. There was an agreement that they were going to go by the ruling of the Court of Chancery because they were confident.
Yeah.
Well, when it actually ended up in our favor, they decided to do it to the Delaware Supreme Court. And of course, during that time as well. So, you've got all this going on.
Yeah.
You have one absentee ballot set that's sent out to absentee voters that had Jane Hovington, who was the Democrat candidate, and Eric Bodenweiser, who's a Republican candidate. They got sent out.
Wow.
Well, then when Bodenweiser withdrew, they sent another set of absentee ballots with just Jane Hovington on there. So now 2 sets of absentee ballots have been sent out for people. So the state Supreme Court held oral arguments via teleconference on the day that Delaware was getting hit by Hurricane or Superstorm Sandy in 2012.
2012. Yeah. I remember that.
So, during all that wind and everything, the attorneys were on the phone with the Supreme Court, with the 5 members of the Supreme Court arguing the case. Supreme Court said, okay, we're going to have a decision for you later today. They came back and said, we're going to affirm the decision of the Court of Chancery, put Brian on the ballot. So then another set of absentee ballots had to be put out. Yeah. So bottom line is it was a 37-day campaign for Senate.
Wow.
From the day that I filed as a writing candidate until Election Day. And one of the things, and I think more important about that campaign, not just, some of the things that were happening in the background, but the relationship that I had with my opponent, with Jane Hovington.
Yeah.
Jane, I love her. She is a great lady. When I was mayor, I'd actually appointed her as on the board of adjustment to the
Beautiful.
town. And when we would go to forums, we'd be chatting. We would see each other, we would hug each other.
Hmm.
We would talk about things, as two people, not as two opponents in a campaign, but
Yeah.
as two people, and work through things. And we were on another radio show, Dan Gaffney, when he was over at Jimmy's Grill, and he even commented. He said, "What is it with you two?
Yeah.
You two are nice to each other."
Yeah.
And we have always, we had always then, we during the campaign we did, and we still do, treat each other as people,
Sure.
as Sussex Counties, as people that want the best for the people in our community. And when I ended up winning on election day, I called her up, and she was so gracious and so happy. And very shortly after the election day, we met about
Hmm.
something that one of the things that she wanted to do if she got elected, and that was get the Richard Allen School there in Georgetown. It was originally owned, as the Richard Allen School. It was bought by the Indian River School District. I actually attended that as
Yeah.
well. And in kindergarten and first grade, it got turned over to the Boys and Girls Club, who were going to try to make it into a community center. They were considering demolishing it, but it's a historical
Hmm.
building. So we ended up getting that building transferred over to the Richard Allen Coalition, and they're still in the process now of renovating it, making it a community center for that area there in the east part of Georgetown. But one of the things that she wanted that property to go to the Richard Allen Coalition
Yeah.
so that it could be preserved as history and for the community. And that was one of the things that she wanted to
Hmm.
do if she got elected. She didn't, but we worked together to get that done.
Yeah.
And so that's my journey. That's
I got
that's
you.
that's how I've gotten here. It was kind of not a straight path, not a ABC type of path, and it's a path that honestly, I didn't prepare myself. I didn't say, you know what, here's my 5-year plan. At year 5, I'm going to be senator.
Yeah.
That wasn't there. The opportunity was there, but I'm going to tell you this, and plainly, if it wasn't God's will, it would have never happened. There were so many things that
Hmm.
had to happen to put me where I was at that point in time.
Yeah.
Not only professionally, but personally with family, that I could do that. And
Hmm.
without all those things, without his grace, I never would have been there.
Beautiful. Now, you mentioned that your uncle is the one who kind of like
Mhm.
confronted you, say, "Hey, do something about it,"
Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh.
So he's a great person. I mean,
Yeah.
person of influence in your life.
Mhm.
Up to this point, who were like the people you look up to? Who were the people who really invested in you, to shape you up to this point?
A lot of it, I was working in the private sector, so I had some really good bosses
Mm.
and some really horrible bosses as well. And I think so there's times that when you're looking to develop yourself as a leader, the most important lessons come from the bad bosses.
Wow.
I mean, your good bosses, yeah, they kind of teach you the right things to do, but bad bosses, I had a boss that, every morning there would be a conference call, and he would yell at all the branch
Mm.
managers. That's not how you get stuff done.
Yeah.
That's not effective leadership, just yelling stuff. I had one manager one time that, of course, I worked in the IT field. That when he got mad, we had a a spare supply of keyboards because he would just take both fists and bang, bang, bang on the
Wow.
keyboards, and then call up the help desk and say, "My keyboard's not working." We knew what happened.
Yeah.
Okay. So, it's one of those things, but, I also had a really good boss one time that, was in the Army. He was Major General in the Army. And he really taught us about what real teamwork is,
Hmm.
about not leaving people behind, about, going out there and saying, and he gave me a quiz one time, having to deal with a boat and and what you would do with survivors. You've got 20 survivors, but a boat that would only hold 15 people. You had some injured people, and he kind of gave me the scenario. He said, "What would you do?"
Yeah.
And, we always went through that. And, one of the things that he taught me is, you take care of your people first. You take care of the people that need more help first, but
Mm-hmm.
never forget everybody else too.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy to focus on the problems and ignore the people that are just okay. But it's taking care of everybody and making sure you're not missing the forest for the trees type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they were influences. And honestly, I had a really good pastor back when I was young, Sam McWilliams, from that he served the Georgetown United Methodist Circuit.
Mm-hmm.
So it was Providence Church where I grew up, St. John's Church, and Bethesda Church in Georgetown.
Mm-hmm.
They were in a Georgetown circuit at that time, and Reverend McWilliams, you know, and I was young then. I was what, sixth grade, so 11, 12 years old, and he would pick me up from my house, and we would go and do maintenance on the other churches and do maintenance around the parsonage. I would cut grass, and we would go have lunch, and he would give me these little pearls of wisdom
Mm-hmm.
throughout the summertime, and I learned a lot from him in terms of what it was to be a good person, what it was to be kind of in faith. My dad was a huge influence
Yeah.
on me as well. My dad passed away a little over a year ago now. It'll be 2 years in July. But Dad was worked for Delaware Electric Co-op.
Mm-hmm.
He was a lineman there first. He worked in shipping, receiving. Farmer. Had chicken houses. Later on, he drove school buses. Just a real hardworking person. And I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot from my uncle too. My uncle Warren,
Yeah.
who was neighbor to my dad for forever.
Mm-hmm.
They lived next to each other, and so I pull from a lot of different people when it comes to who formed me and why I am the way I am right now.
Yeah.
Not only in personal life, but in business life and politically. One of my favorite people locally was Thurman Adams. He was the state senator for the 19th
Mm-hmm.
district where I am now, but he was president pro tem. He was a farmer.
Wow.
He owned a grain company over in Bridgeville. And when I was on Georgetown Council, and even before that, when we would go sell grain over there and take grain over there to the mill, just sitting with my dad or my uncle and talking to him, just about things that were going on. It I can't say there's one defining moment out
Sure.
there, but and I'm hoping that what I'm able to give back is greater than the sum of everything that has helped to shape me.
Something that I really love about the story, especially with your uncle, like, man, you do something wrong, do something about it,
Hmm.
right? Get
Hmm.
involved. Today, we see a lot of people. It's so easy just to go to social media now.
It
I
is.
mean, it's
It
just
is.
like everybody's like, everybody tells you what you should do,
Hmm.
right? Everything, how things should work, but like the idea of like get involved and do something, even I just say people, just the simple blessing that it is to be able to go vote. People don't even go
It
out and
is.
vote.
And that's one thing too. People will put something on social media, and somebody sends me a screenshot, and they're like, "Hey, does this person contact you?" Just like, no, they just put it out on social media. They don't tag me. They don't send me an email. They've never called me. I don't know about their problem,
Yeah,
but they expect if they put it out there in the world, that the world will help solve their problem. But sometimes it's just a phone call to your legislator.
yeah,
It's a phone call to your senator or representative. Whether it's local, it's a phone call to your town council member or your mayor or your county council person, just to say, hey, I have this idea or I have this problem. Can you help me with it?
yeah.
And most of the time we're able to do it. There's sometimes that we can't.
Hmm.
There's I've been dealing right now with somebody who has got an issue with medical records that we can't change your medical records. You don't agree with it.
Yeah.
That's not something we can do. I've given her advice to seek counsel
Hmm.
through an attorney, but she wants me to fix it. I was like, I can't.
Yeah.
That's something that we can't do. But a lot of times, if we can't do something, we can give that guidance.
Hmm.
And a lot of times people they have issues, they don't come to the right people, They just want to vent to people. And then there's sometimes when you try to help them with it and they just don't take the help either.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. That's one of the frustrating parts
Mm-hmm.
is when people won't accept the help that you try to give them to actually make their situation better.
Yeah. So now you were mayor of Georgetown.
Mhm.
I said one term, right?
One term. Yeah.
One term, 2 years.
2 years.
2012, you were elected to be a senator,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go into state level.
Yep.
From not from state to state level.
Yep.
Now, if you can remember, that was 14 years ago, so it's going to be time flies.
Mm-hmm.
If you can tell, like, what were your expectations before you went into the state, and then when reality hits you, like
Yeah. So and I had talked to Senator Adams before. I had talked to Senator Booth, and I talked to Joe when he was representative as well. There's a big difference, and you go into there going, I kind of know what to expect. There's a big difference, in one side of the desk versus the other side of the desk, because I went to them with a couple different problems, and they helped out. One was some charter change for Georgetown, and some other things. But when you get on that other side of the desk, it's not just that one thing that you're having to deal with. You're dealing with tens or hundreds of people coming to you with their own concerns about what's going on. And because, your vote affects the entire state, you don't get just people in your district.
Oh, yeah.
You get people from the other side of the state, or, the other side of the county where you don't serve, or from out of state that have interests here in Delaware. So, I think that the thing that really hit me was you're trying to drink from a fire hose at that point in time. I thought that I kind of knew what was going on. I just knew a very small part of it. But actually getting there on the other side of the street of the desk and getting all those emails and getting all those phone calls and people wanting your time, it was very overwhelming at first. And again, that's not something that I had prepared for.
Yeah.
I ran a 37-day campaign. 38 days prior to election, I was not going to do that. So it's just one of those things where, and again, if not me, then who?
Yeah.
And, that's one of the reasons why I filed, because, I didn't think that, our party was going to have representation. I knew that once things came out that, that winner of the primary was going to withdraw, and that would just leave one person on the ballot, with no real good choice, at a time where, the Republicans had helped that seat, but it was more than party. It was, I wanted people to have that choice there in that election, especially with all of everything that happened. It was held by a Democrat, held by a Republican for a few years, and everything that went on. I just wanted to make sure that people had that good balanced choice there. And, just going in there, 38 days later after making that decision, I wasn't prepared for it.
Yeah.
Not even one bit. So, my ramp up time, was a little bit longer because, I hadn't had that mindset.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to do.
Now, I see your work. You're not only a senator, you're part of the leadership within the Senate. You're the minority whip.
Yep.
In a state as like Delaware, where your side of the aisle is such in a minority, right? You have a super minority, if that's called super majority.
There's only one vote a year that they need our vote for.
Yeah.
Yeah, one. That's it.
And it takes that's what I say. Like when you're in the minority, if you want to get anything done, it takes like so much work, right? Because you have to network like crazy just to accomplish anything, or even just to be able to have a voice. Right. And I think you do a fantastic job trying to reach out and networking. So it's just a lot of work. One is, how do you balance your personal life plus your business plus being a senator plus being in the district, and you're not just representing a few people, you have hundreds of people coming to you. What keeps you grounded?
Well, one of the things that I try to do, I try to make sure that I take one day for personal, one day a week for personal. It's usually Sunday. Sometimes I have to shift it to Saturday if there's events that are
Yeah.
happening on Sunday, but I try to dedicate at least one day where I'm not having to deal with the public,
Hmm.
that I can, deal with stuff at home, deal with stuff at the farm, do whatever else I have to do, and just do some of my reading, whatever I need to do just to keep myself centered. I do that. The second thing, and I think the real important thing about keeping, if you're in the public, about keeping yourself grounded, is make sure you have people in your inner circle that aren't yes people.
Mm.
It's real easy to surround
Yes.
yourself with people that say, "Oh yeah, Brian, you're right. You're right." That's
You're
"Oh, you're
amazing.
amazing. You do great ideas." Um, that doesn't help you grow.
Yeah.
That doesn't help you grow. That also makes it so you're going to lose sight of what's really happening out there in the world, because I can't be everywhere at all
Yeah.
times. There's times that I've got a request for 3 different meetings at the same time between Dover and Georgetown and Millsboro. I can't be there.
Hmm.
So, you need people that are able to be your eyes and ears out there too, but will, readily say, "Hey, Brian, we need to talk.
Yeah.
We got something going on here. I don't know if you're getting the whole picture, but let's talk about it." And I encourage that with people within my circle.
Yeah.
I don't want you to just say yes because you want something from me. I want you to tell me, "Brian, you're wrong, and this is why I think you're wrong." And I've spoken about that, and about that part of me that always wants to make sure that I'm hearing the other side. And I think that's what I bring into leadership in the Senate
Yeah.
too. That I'm more than just the loyal opposition there.
Hmm.
That I don't say, we don't argue a point just to argue a point, but we come back with, these are facts. Why? This is the why we're voting against what the majority party is. And make sure a lot of that gets on the record, and do it in a respectful way.
Yeah.
Because as sure as I am about something, I'm sure somebody over there on the other side of the aisle is as sure about their position. So I wouldn't want them coming at me and doing a personal attack. And I'm not going to do that with them
Yeah.
either. I will make very firm, and you've heard me before, make very firm and impassioned testimony and arguments on the floor. But it's always based in fact. It's always based in fact and truth.
And I think that that's the part where sometimes people get caught up. There are people that you might not agree what they stand for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they're really, everybody, if I say something at legislative, well, maybe not everyone, but the majority for sure, is that they're there because they have a sincere concern
Right.
about the state, and they're really in the sphere that they know.
Right.
They're really trying to do the best for the people
Mm-hmm.
there.
Mm-hmm.
And having those conversations, and you, as I said, you're very good at it, standing up and being very firm. You're
Right.
really firm in what you stand, which is good. You always really prepare what you're gonna say. I love it.
I appreciate
and let's say, like, if you could go back, let's say, Brian, you just moved to Georgetown, you were elected 2009,
Mm-hmm.
right? The Brian who's starting to think about serving after your uncle say do something.
Mm-hmm.
If you can go back and say something to that Brian, what would you say to that Brian?
I want to say to that, Brian, buddy, you don't know what you don't know yet. A lot of times when you get elected, you think, okay, they elected me. I must be smart and I must know what I'm doing. But you don't know everything. One of the things that I've learned, over the last, almost 2 decades in public service, is to remain curious.
Mm.
Because curiosity allows you to go and ask questions about stuff. It prompts you to read. It prompts you to read all sides of a story. I mean, I open up my my web browser on my computer, and I've got a set one that comes up with different tabs. I've got conservative news. I've got middle of the road news. I've got progressive news. I have business. I have stuff from overseas, BBC, all of those types of things because I want to see all sides of the story. I don't, it's just like your diet.
Mm,
You don't eat one thing. Everybody talks about a balanced diet.
yeah.
Well, you've got to do a balanced diet, not only for your body, but you also have to have a balanced diet of the information that you consume.
Yeah.
And if you're just listening to one subset of people, you're not getting the whole story. And we really saw that back in 2020, where people were getting confirmation bias
Mm,
in their news.
yeah.
They were getting confirmation bias in their search results because the algorithms try to feed what it thinks that you want.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We're a lot of times we are ruled by the algorithms out there that are serving us information.
Yeah.
So just think of a cafeteria worker out there that's just serving you one thing because they know that you like it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's say they're serving you ice cream every day in the lunch line,
Yeah.
but you're not getting your vegetables.
Yeah.
You're not getting your your meats. You're not getting your grains.
Mhm.
But they know you like ice cream, so that's all they're putting on your plate
Yeah.
every day. You need to force yourself to go outside that. And when I first started out, I was very okay. I was probably a victim to that confirmation bias. And I thought that I was getting all the information that I needed,
Mhm.
but I wasn't. And I learned that, in 2008, 2009, after Chad was killed, and then when I got into the mayor's spot, I really started to be very conscious about the information that I was getting and where that information was coming from. And that's when I really started to balance that information diet that was coming into me as well.
And also is the importance of empathy, right?
Yes. Yeah.
It's just like, okay, you seeing this perspective on the other side. I'm trying to understand why you see it from that
Right.
perspective.
Right.
Which we always like, oh, my side is right, and
Mm.
this is it. And that's part of curiosity, which is great.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you do that very well.
Oh, thanks.
You did that very well.
Thanks.
Now, I asked you before we started talking to give a message to the people in your district. You represent, again, District 19 in the Senate. Would love for you. One is, how can people contact you?
Mhm.
Hopefully, a lot of people who don't know you yet,
Mhm.
they will get to know you a little bit more
Yeah.
through this.
Yeah.
And if you can just tell them how to contact you, what's the best way to reach out to you if they have any needs,
Mhm.
and also just give them a message. If you could give a message to your whole district, what would you say to your district?
First, how to reach me. I've got a website, brianpertyjohn.com, BrianPettyJohn.com. Email brian.pettyjohn@delaware.gov. Best ways to reach me there. And I've got a constituent coffee that I try to do every month. In fact, I've got one coming up. Not sure when this podcast is going to be up, but I've got one coming up this coming Saturday there in the Millsboro Police Department community room. So I try to engage out there in public. And look, you see my face if you see me out in the grocery store or whatever. I can't tell you how many times I go through the grocery store and somebody grabs me and say, "Hey, Brian, I got a problem.
Yeah.
Can you help me with this?" So I always got my phone or a notepad with me that I'm scribbling down notes and doing stuff like that. But I'm pretty easy to reach. I'm out there a lot in the public.
That's good.
Yeah. And then for a message to everybody, I guess, I'm a pretty simple person. My message is, look, I don't care if you're a Republican, a conservative, a Democrat, a progressive, a liberal, if you're a constitutionalist, if you're a libertarian, or you really just don't really care about politics. I'm willing to talk to you. I welcome conversation. There are people out there in my district that are supporting me, that have supported me, that don't agree with me politically.
Sure.
Because I'm willing to listen. And I love listening to people. I love bantering back about, what's going on and learning why they want, certain things a certain way. And then them having the willingness to listen to me as well. Sometimes we agree on stuff, sometimes we don't, but I don't think I've ever had a conversation with somebody that they came out of that conversation saying, well, he didn't respect the way I thought. I think that is so important to respect one another's viewpoints, even if you don't agree. You can disagree without being disagreeable to one another.
Yeah.
And it's really important, especially in this day and age where it's so easy to get behind a keyboard and put something on social media or put an email out there. And I mean, there's no consequences for that anymore. To be able to just sit down, one-on-one and talk about something. And that's what I love doing. I love having those conversations. I love learning about somebody and why they think the way they think. And then, if they're willing to accept it, me doing the same thing, because a lot of times people see me as a senator, but they don't, and a lot of people think, the politician is just this thing out there.
Yep.
They don't realize that, people that are in public service are people as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's a reason why they think the way they think, and being open to learn why we as policymakers are thinking the way we are thinking, and giving us another point of view that might, that might nudge us in the other direction. If we have all the information, a lot of times we don't get the full picture.
Yeah.
But if we get the full picture, sometimes that will help us say, you know what, you might have a point there. And I've done that before where, somebody comes to me and says, hey, I know this is your position on XYZ. Can you hear me out? Like, absolutely. If you've got a position on something that you don't think agrees with mine, reach out. We'll have a conversation. I love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, I want to say thank you.
No, thank you.
Really, thank you for taking the time. I know you have a very busy schedule. Thank you for just coming out and let us get to know you a little bit more, maybe in a different way.
Yeah.
Your background, and hopefully I can have you back because I know it's a lot there to learn.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
It's great. And also want to say thank you for serving the people of the District 19, but you're not only serving them, but, your vote affects the whole state.
Yeah.
And I know how serious you take it. And if it's something, you just said, you're not only serving the people who voted for you, you're serving everybody in the district. And I love that.
Yeah.
So thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for what you do too. We love having you up there.
Oh, it's great to be out there.
Yeah.
Well, appreciate you, man.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, stay tuned.